On all the Intergas range, the boiler should be serviced annually. So from the date of installation, every 12 months from that point. On each service, you should go and isolate the appliance on the gas. Isolate the electric from the fuse spur. And then we'll commence on a full strip down of the appliance. So if we undo the chimney, slide that up. Undo the gas valve from both top and bottom nut. Just pull the ignition module towards you and unclip it from the gas valve. You can then lift the tail of the fan to one side, where you'll find an injector for the top of the gas valve. Be careful not to lose that, because you will need that to go back in. Disconnect the fan, and then we're ready then to undo all the bolts on the front of the heat exchange. It's a 6mm Allen key. Doesn't matter in what order you undo all these bolts. And then lift the front plate off the front of the boiler with the fan still attached. And it's important to inspect that the burner is intact, doesn't need to be cleaned, and that the actual front plate seal is all intact as well. Just gently remove that from the front plate. Just put the front plate to one side. Gently inspect that to make there's no cracks or it's gone brittle or starting to tear, and we'll put that back in after. There you can see the full heat exchange. You can just use a gentle service brush to brush that down, but as you can see it's quite clean inside because the boiler condenses in both hot water and heating mode and washes the majority of any rubbish down the heat exchange into the condensate collector. So if you've given that a quick clean out, brush any debris you've got into the condensate collector, gently remove that out, lift up on this end and put over the front of the display. Take that off, gently go and wash that out. Once you've taken the collector out, take the condensate trap out at the bottom, gently pull that down towards you. Then wash that out with any dirt that's trapped in there, fill it back up with water and reconnect that back under the boiler. It just push locks in place into the grommet. So we have the condensate trap back in. Let's put the condensate collector in the bottom. So put that under the bottom of the heat exchange, push that up at the back, pop that back over the display and push that directly into the condensate trap. You've heard that click in place. Make sure that goes back in flat, otherwise you might get condensate leaking around the outside if it's not connected properly. So if we get the front plate and the seal and reinsert those, so just gently push that all in place. As you can see, just locates in that little groove on that front plate. We're now ready to put that back on the front of the heat exchange. So just locate that in place. Just put the bolts in finger tight all the way around, just to hold it in. Final one in. And start to tighten them up. As you finish tightening that up, just check around the outer edge that you can't feel any of the seal is pinched. Also check that there's a burner spring located in the top right hand side of the boiler. So that's for earthing. You can use a T20 as well, just to tighten the burners. And then we'll put back in the gas valve. Tighten on the bottom nut just to secure it in place. Don't forget to put your injector in. There's also a small number printed on the top of that. Put that number side up. Turn the tail back into place and tighten the nut back up on the top. Reclip your ignition module back onto your gas valve. And reconnect your fan back in place as well. Then put your chimney back in finally. Make sure you push that all the way back down into the bottom of the tray. Roll the O-ring back down and put the securing clip back in place. Then we are now ready to test the boiler and recommission on the gas valve. Now if we test the gas on the gas valve, so if we turn the isolation valve back on for the gas, the power is now back on as well. Test on the inlet to make sure that's okay. As we've had the gas valve out, isolate that from underneath. Give that a minute or so just to check to make sure we're okay. We've got no gas leaks. And we're good to go. Secure that back up once you've done that. LDF your P1 point. And now what we're going to do is test the gas valve to make sure the CO2 is set up correctly. Now we're going to set up the CO2 on the boiler. All boilers come into the UK as natural gas. So we're looking to set the CO2 up on the minimum level at 9.1. On the full Intergas range, setting up the CO2 is the same. So you need to go into low fire to make the adjustment. Not high and low, it's just in low setting. So if we take off the test point at the fluid terminal, put in your fluid analyzer, and you need a T15 torque for the top of the gas valve so you can adjust the CO2. Remove the dust cap. Then we need to put the boiler into low fire. To do this, you press the spanner button and the minus button together. And what you'll get is L for low position. So as I say, all these boilers are natural gas, so you are looking for around about 9.1 on CO2. Now to make the adjustment, your T15 torque just sits just inside, and it is just with the slightest of moves to adjust it. So if we just let that settle for a bit, what you will notice with the Intergas range is that the ppm levels are quite low in low fire. So you're looking anywhere between 15 to 25 ppm. So this one's sitting at 9.2. So we can make a tiny adjustment. And it is just the tiniest of tweaks. So it's anti-clockwise to turn it down and clockwise to increase it. So as we can see there, it's got 9.1 in low on CO2. Then to go into domestic hot water mode, to get your reading for the high fire as well on a combi, you press spanner plus twice to get capital H. And you allow between plus and minus 0.5 on your CO2. Again, you will find that the ppm will increase slightly, so you're looking around about 55 to 65 ppm. Once it starts to level out, you can print off your reading. The boiler also indicates your flow temperature on high. If you're using the Intergas boiler as a heat only boiler or system boiler, you need to check your CO2 in small h, which is maximum central heating. So press spanner and plus once, and you'll get the small h indicated in the window. These operations will stay in place for 15 minutes to allow you to gas rate the appliance as well. If you find the boiler gets up to temperature, then you can open a hot tap if it's a combi version, so it will disperse the heat, but it will still stay in operation mode. Once you've got your readings, simply press plus and minus to come out of that. Remove your flue analyzer, replace the cap onto the test point, and replace the cap on top of the gas valve. One of the final things to do is to test the boiler in domestic hot water mode on the gas. So attach that to P1. Press the spanner button and the plus button twice to put it into the domestic hot water mode, symbol by capital H. And we are looking for 19 to 20 millibars on full rate. As you can see, that's okay. To cancel that, press the minus and the plus button together. Disconnect that, tighten back up, LDF your point, and we are good to go.